Good morning, Maggie. I'm so excited that you're here. Thank you for taking the time today.
Of course. Thank you for inviting me to chat.
So, before we go into it, this is Maggie Owens, owner of Presley Paige, which is the coolest, just dreamy store experience and lifestyle, embracing the party and the celebration. And I'm so looking forward to understanding how that concept came to be and all the ways you're running with it. But first, I want to talk a little bit about it's been a particularly busy season for you, right? With the start of school again. How was last week?
Yes. Well, I am still in what we're calling like rush recovery. So, for those of you that aren't familiar with the University of Arkansas, the University of Arkansas has a really big Greek life program, and we were fortunate enough to play a very small role in decor for a few houses. And then on Saturday, which was the day that everyone gets their beds to figure out what sorority house that they're in, was a very big shopping day for us. It was our largest day in number of transactions and sales by more than triple what we've ever had. So it was like more than we could have ever experienced in all the best ways possible. But the shop had to be is in the process of being completely reset, and we are purely just exhausted. It was one point on Saturday when I realized I hadn't gone to bed since Thursday night, which was actually like Friday morning when I left a sorority house at 4. I slept for 2 or 3 hours and then was back at like 7:30. So needless to say, we are also recovering.
Oh my gosh, that's that
It was great. Like it was amazing, but we're tired.
that business owner hustle, that adrenaline pumping, all the good things.
Yeah.
And like you have some major shopping events throughout the year. So it's no small feat to top all of that. That's so exciting and amazing. So congratulations. And we spoke once before and you told me a little bit about how the shop, started with maybe like party supplies, but you started in January of 2020. And so you kind of like expanded or maybe pivoted what that
Yeah.
meant. And I think that that made you even more equipped probably for having what a sorority girl needs moving into her
Yeah,
house situation.
absolutely. I think one thing about owning a business is you're constantly trying to pivot based off of what customers are asking for, and just a demand of different things. So, um, as you mentioned, we opened in January of 2020. So we opened 73 days before the pandemic, and then we were closed pretty much all of March, all of April, and then most of May. We reopened the last week of May. So being closed longer than we were ever even open was interesting. And we really got to have this is before e-commerce. We didn't launch our online store until end of July, 1st of August of last year. So we really had to figure out a way to meet the customer where they were in one of those like sink or swim kind of moments. And you could kind of say Greek life was like that too. I realized, okay, I have a lot of these girls shopping with us in store. Our primary customers, not college students, but these girls are coming in here and they're asking for the same things over and over. So instead of just like fighting against it, like lean in a little bit and see what happens. So
I love
it's
that.
been fun.
And I think, so I can't imagine what it was like to start a business on the cusp of a pandemic that would change us all. But you didn't come in completely blind. You have a really rich background in, the business world, the real estate world. I'd love to start, let's actually go from earlier before that. Like, what was it
Yeah.
like growing up as Maggie Owens? Where did you grow up? Like, what were you interested in paper goods at that time? Like,
Yeah.
let's go there.
So I grew up in Hot Springs, Arkansas. It is a small town in South Central Arkansas. I think the population when I lived there was like 35,000. And I was like one of those people that thought like I have to leave this place, like don't want to be in a small town forever, like I have to leave Arkansas. So I left. Plot twist, I'm back. Um, but I left and I went to college at the University of Utah, and then I ended up switching majors and changing a lot of things in life and went to Utah Valley University where I graduated. but I always, I thought I was going to be a lawyer. And that's like literally the only thing that I ever thought I was going to do. And um, I had always loved like color and glitter and like fun things. And I was always involved with different organizations, whether it was like student council in high school or, student government in college. I was always trying to like get involved in something that was usually like around events and decor. But my earliest like retail memory or like thinking that I wanted to have my own business someday was in my hometown. There was a boutique, and I remember when it opened thinking like, this is the coolest thing ever. And this was 2000 and like, gosh, probably 2002, 2003. And there was a woman who left school, or she graduated from college. She opened this boutique in Hot Springs, and it was right next to the Starbucks. And at that time, when you're like 12, 13, like that was the Starbucks was new. Okay. It was like, it was a really big deal in Hot Springs. Um, and so the thing was like everybody would go to the Starbucks and like hang out and like on the patio, and like the Starbucks and the boutique were right next to each other. And so I didn't drink coffee, obviously. I'm like 12. Um, so I remember I'd always get those Izzy drinks, and like everyone would be talking about like their crushes and stuff. And I'd just be looking at this like cute boutique that was all pink, and it was fun. And that's really one of my like earliest memories of thinking like, I want to do this someday. And like, I want to have a business. And so throughout the years, as I would meet other people that worked in retail, I'd always ask them a million questions. And I've always been kind of inquisitive and like care about the details, because I'm like, I don't know, I guess an information hoarder. So I'm like, oh, what's that? Oh, interesting. Just put this note in my phone, or like store this in my mind for later memory. Um, so I think that like all of that kind of played a role in getting me to where I am today. And when I worked in real estate, so I came from a career in taking new products on into the market. So say for example, there's this apartment complex that's brand new. It's like under construction. So I would work with our ownership and development teams to talk through like interior finishes, amenities, and how we were going to actually like make that thing come to life through like community programming and like different marketing initiatives. So that is what I did from 2013. From the first job I graduated from college, I led a new construction project, and I'm really relied. It was fully marketing, and so I did that from 2013 until 20. Oh my gosh, what year is it? 2021. So I kind of did that in a lot of different roles, and all across the country. My first job out of college was actually back in Arkansas, and then I left for several years and came back. But that really taught me, one, how to like grab the attention of a customer, and really the operational side of it. So coming from the retail or from the real estate and like management world, it's like you can have the best marketing in the world, but if your team can't execute and there's not like this long-term great management relationship because you're dealing with someone's home, that can go south really quickly. So no amount of marketing in the world can overcome operational issues. So having a very strong like marketing in that way, like new startup marketing and operational background, really helped me when opening Presley Paige, because it wasn't like I was starting from scratch thinking like what's an expense report, or like how to manage a team, or why can't I close. So I think that there's a lot of things that small businesses stay small for longer because they have to learn all these things. And I was just in a really fortunate position to have a little bit more knowledge about a few things coming in.
That's so cool. I think there's probably so much benefit to start with from a place of like soaking up knowledge in like a more corporate setting
Yeah.
before you launch off on your own with that great like set of tools. And I think it's encouraging too that like, real estate and stationery maybe on the forefront, or party supplies, or this whole lifestyle maybe don't have like a ton in common, but they really at the end of the day are running a business, executing an idea, and like following through
Yeah.
on what you promise people. And so the idea that you can take the skills from one and apply them to the other, hopefully other people can see that they can do that too from
Yeah.
whatever
I
you're working.
always tell people, like, we have a lot of young college students that will message us, or, women looking to get back in the workforce and are asking for advice, or like saying that, oh, I just want to start a business. I don't want to go work for anybody. And I'm like, honestly, I'm not gonna say like you can just go start it, because I think you can't, or like I'm not gonna say there's something wrong with that, because you can do that. But I learned so much from working with other people and like like seeing other people's leadership styles, learning like who I want to be as an owner and like what I want for my brand. So I would tell people that are like currently in a job that they don't necessarily love, like find the positives of that and like continue to work through that, or go work for somebody else that you might learn from, because I mean, in life, you're just constantly learning, and have that perspective of like, I'm learning what I don't want from here, or like, what are the great things about this, that whether it's an efficiency or a system, like, how can I take that and apply it to my own business someday?
Yes, that is definitely a mindset that could help someone thrive more than a just, I hate this counting down the days.
Yeah.
The thing doesn't really go anywhere fruitful. So I love
Yeah.
that perspective. And I loved even the stories you shared of like sitting at the Starbucks and having the store nearby. I remember I went to a school that like every first Thursday, I think the faculty had a staff meeting in elementary school. And so when we got to like
Okay.
7th and 8th grade, we would all get pizza that day and we would walk to the local shopping center and we would go into the Bath and Body Works and we would go to I think it was called KB Toys or something, and we would have little lightsaber fights in the um
Sure.
hallway. And I remember, a little bit older, and actually even in Arkansas, when Presley Paige opened, just on a rainy day, being like, I just need some inspiration from the retail world, and going in and just like loving the interactions with the shop owners and the people working behind the cash register, and it being such an important part of the community. So I see why that would be inspiring to you.
Yes, it's fun. I mean, I still think about that shop. I mean, she doesn't own it anymore, and she doesn't even know who I am. But I'm like, the lasting impression of her, 20 years later in my life. It's kind of cool to think about.
So cool. And I remember last time we spoke, you mentioned the role of like social media in your success in the real estate rather business, and maybe how that also piqued your interest in entrepreneurship. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that and how we get to ultimately Presley Page.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first graduated from college, I got this job. I didn't really know what I was doing. It was myself, and then over time, I built a team of 14 college students that worked for me. And ultimately, I did not know anything about marketing, other than the sense that, like, I mean, I guess I knew marketing loosely, but I was like, what do you mean that's a major? Like, people could have studied that. Like, I just thought that I didn't ever cross my mind. And so when I got this job, they're like, you need to like market to these people. And I was like, what? Really? So I, being at the time, gosh, 22, I was like, well, I have Twitter and I have Instagram, and this is like the early days of Instagram.
Mhm.
And so I would literally spend hours every day, like tweeting. There was a lot of like bigger like student accounts at University of Arkansas that we would tweet to, and then just using Instagram, like commenting on, like, literally, like, this is old school, so it's not like it is today, the interface, but like seeing one girl who was like a student in Arkansas commenting on her post and going to her friends and like commenting on their post and like going to location tags and like, I mean, this was before you could like tag people in photos. You had to tag them in the comments, or you had to tag them in the captions. So um social media, like, that was a real big turning point in my career of saying like, whoa, like there's so much available on through the internet and like through social media as a way to like reach people. But also when I was in college and was like first getting into Instagram as a senior in college, um, seeing like other women like entrepreneurs and creatives out in the world is what really like made me realize, hey, there was this bigger space than just what I was seeing around me, because coming from a small town, never really like experiencing what a bigger city had. So, like Salt Lake is great and it's really big. So I don't want to say that because in comparison to Fayetteville, it's huge. But, as a college student, you have a very limited usually experience of what you have around you. So you seeing things on Instagram that were in like San Francisco or Los Angeles or New York City and like all the different things like women were doing outside of a traditional corporate job, or it's not like it was Hallmark, it was a woman at her house making art as a graphic designer, or that was her side job. Packed Party is one of them that I really loved. I remember when Jordan like started that brand and was in San Francisco and like moved apartments. Like I remember the whole thing because it was like I was in college, we were like roughly the same age, she was just a few years older. So Instagram was great because it made me see that there was so many other ways and so many other things to do in life than just like graduating and getting a job. And Instagram has always been a point of inspiration for me. I'm not a really big Pinterest person. Because I don't like to save things. I'm very creative, but like not super organized with my creative thoughts. I'm a big screenshots kind of girl. So I'm not saving things to boards. But Instagram has always been great for me because I love to be able to search and I love to use hashtags. And so over the years, I kind of like built this catalog of different things that I loved. And so fast forward to 2015, 2016, where I really started to get serious about wanting to open a business. I had this whole thing of like, oh, these are the brands that I like because I've been literally like stalking them online for years. And I've never been to market. So in the retail space, a lot of business owners and brands, they go to market to source product for their stores or e-commerce or brick and mortar. And I've never been to market, not for any reason other than I couldn't afford to go. But I really want to go someday. However, I didn't need to go as much as somebody else because I already knew what my curation was going to be, because in my mind, I had been planning for it for years and years and years. So it's kind of fun. Social media is great.
So you mentioned going to market. Is this like a hype, like a made up space where people sell things, or is this like an event that happens each year? Like,
oh my gosh, yes, that's great. I'm so sorry. So
no, I just so funny.
yeah. So in retail, there are markets for home and gift, apparel, stationery, and a market is essentially like in Dallas. I think the building don't quote me on this. Like people don't fact check me because I could be wrong. I think the building's like 13 or 14 floors, and it's just like showroom after showroom. So like one showroom might be for like necklaces and jewelry. The next one might be for purses. And so like there's these places that at the market. So like Atlanta has a market, Dallas has a market, Las Vegas has a market. So there are some markets that are open year round. And then there's big things called going to market, where they have a tons of temporary vendors too that will like lease space and have a showroom. So if you follow a business and they're like, we're going to market this week, it's because they're going to like preview the collections for the next like season. So like right now in market is like spring summer 2022. And so you kind of have a really great advantage if you go to market, because you get to see things and you get to feel the products before you bring them into your store and like pre-order them. You usually get like some kind of discounts, but going to market is a really big deal in the business retail world, because that's really like how you find what to bring to your store.
That's so cool. I love industry lingo and like being in on it. So I appreciate you breaking it down for me. But I think that there's so much to be said for how you did use social media. On one end, like as a consumer, for me, like when a brand engages me online, it makes me feel so special. And it makes me so much more inclined to share their stuff, to purchase their stuff, to hype them up too. So I think that was one way that it was really great, but also like you mentioned, not needing to go to market because you already had your like curated group of items and brands. And I think that that also makes Presley Page more unique, or it stands to position you more uniquely because you're not going to the same marketplace and looking through the same, set of
Yeah.
products necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, I will say it's gotten year one was a lot easier, not going to market. Year two has been a little bit harder, because it's like I'm realizing the difference between like year one as a business versus year two. It's like year one, everything's new that you bring, right? So, but year two, it's like you're trying to like add new stuff without bringing the same stuff in all the time, find new vendors, and we're kind of to this point. Um, as you continue to grow and scale your business, you get to this point where like how to meet that demand of like finding so many new products all the time. So I hope that we will go to market soon, but um, one thing that like I think distinguishes Presley Page and is part of like our buying strategy is that we buy a lot from like small makers and not so much like mass produced work from like bigger companies that sell at these marketplaces. So whether that's like a small Etsy shop that we find and really, really love their work, so try to wholesale from them, or a local sticker maker. There's so many different people that we try to source from to differentiate ourselves.
It's so special. I love going to Presley Page. I love thinking about Presley Page. Just going to the Instagram page is a breath of fresh air. Honestly, I wore my pink to try to, bring that penthouse.
Oh yeah, I know. I love that. I was gonna say something where I was like, I'm like literally no makeup, still in rush recovery mode, and like not wearing anything pink. So
It's
who am
fabulous
I?
anyway, so it's totally great. But so you speak about, curating from small shops, from local shops, from artisans, etc. I think that that is a wonderful like strategy, not just to be different in the marketplace, but really to speak to your target customer, which I understand is a little different maybe than 2 decades ago who was going to the stationery store. Maybe you can speak a bit to that.
Yeah, for sure. So so I think like talk a little bit about product assortment. So when we first opened, we were like 99.9% party, and the pandemic really changed like our product curation. So now we have about 30% party, and the rest is like home gifts and paper. And that's based off customer demand. And so as we have really continued to grow, I think we're learning all the time about what our customer wants more, but we focused a lot on the customer that is about 25 to 30. I mean, I would say like we have a few personas if you want to get into like really customer strategy here.
It,
We have a couple personas, and one of the personas that we lean into a lot is like young single girl in her like late 20s, early 30s, and like what is she into, what is she like, how is she decorating her home, and mixing a lot of like really like eclectic fun pieces with some more traditional items in the store, because we are in the South, and it's like how do we find that balance of our traditional wonderful shoppers versus our like really eccentric, colorful, fun shoppers that we have a lot of, me being one of them. And so that's on one side. And then we, especially around the holiday seasons, we bring in a lot of children's products. That's not something we carry so much year round, but little children's toys and things for a new mom. So if you think about that original persona, our second customer persona is young mom, young fun mom. And so what is young fun mom buying? What is the price points that she's looking to purchase at? And so, and then on the other end, we have, our older, more financially stable customer as well. And so what we found is that through really like leaning into these personas and like buying for them, especially young fun mom, she a lot of times like wants the really fun, nice, expensive things, but can't necessarily, or she can afford it, but maybe husband says no. And so really trying to find the balance of like, how do we find products that are what she wants, but at a little bit more affordable price point. So Most everything in our store is under $35, $40. I would say definitely mostly under like 20 if you really wanted to drive it down, because we have a lot of cards and pens and coasters and notebooks and notepads. So really, coming from a place where like I grew up in a very like middle class family, didn't have a ton of money, always had to work for what I wanted. My mother worked hard to provide for us, but I always had to work too if I wanted something extra. And so, um, trying to find pieces that people would love and like want to spend money on and um, gift to somebody else without really like breaking the bank is kind of the idea.
Yeah, and you don't realize how much you need that until you like you're really in the situation. You're like, oh, I really need a little gift like right now, and I can't find anything. I was going to a get together in Bella Vista earlier this summer, and I was running late. And I don't cook for people because I'm scared. I don't want to watch them eat it. If they don't like it, it'll like crush me, and I don't cook to begin with. Was like, let me just try to find like flowers on the way there. But it was like nighttime on a Saturday. So like that wasn't really an option from like a proper floral shop. So I like run into one of
Yeah.
the grocery stores on the road up to Bella Vista and they have like $40 flowers. I'm like, I'm not in the $40 market right now. Like I was trying to get something that was like a little like 20 to 30 bucks, but was special and made them know that I was like trying to
For
do
sure.
a good guest, a thankful guest. And if I was going toward Fayetteville, like Presley Page would have been my stop. And I feel like I need to stock up in fans actually, just so I'm ready for the next occasion where I really don't want to cook something to bring to a party.
Yeah.
It's so helpful. And it's so, I think that, you know, yes, it is at a price point that is achievable, but it still feels like a really special occasion to go there and to be treated like the fabulous person that you are. And so I'd love to talk a little bit more now about like just like the essence of Presley Paige. First of all, like the name and where it came from, and then kind of like your slogan, which I love.
So Presley is a name that I always loved. It was a little girl that I babysat growing up for a very short time. Her name was Presley, and it was one of those things I was like, I'm just gonna steal this name. I don't know how I'm gonna use it. Maybe I'll have a kid someday. Name my kid Presley. So that's the name. But ultimately, like, I got a dog several years ago. He's still kicking it, running around like a crazy man. But my dog Presley, his name is Presley. He's a golden doodle, and then Paige is my middle name. So I felt like Paige was like a really good like play on paper and books. And I am really big on like creating a name that could be at least like from a branding perspective. I wanted to create a name that like made you think like what is that versus like giving away the secret before you had to ask. So it's not like Al's Burgers, it's like what? So I like things that like spark a little bit of like discovery and like make you want to like figure out what it is. So that's kind of how Presley Paige came to be from like a naming perspective. Um, and I honestly just like wrote it into my notebook one day and I was like, wait, that sounds really good. And that was the end of it. There was no turning back from there. But people ask me all the time, at least every day, like, are you Presley? No, he's my dog. So that's kind of fun. And then the slogan, I guess, per se that we have is like every day's a party and you're on the guest list. I really like felt uninvited or unwelcome a lot of times when I would shop at like boutiques. And there's like sometimes like a stuffiness, that comes from shopping. I don't even know how to describe it, but like this like uppity kind of vibe that comes from shopping at little like high end or little boutiques. And that's just not my vibe at all. And so I've really tried to create a brand and a culture of inclusion and a place that anybody can feel welcome. Like, come in your sweatpants, come with no makeup on. Like, I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter to me. And I think like as a customer, like there have been places before that I've like felt like not welcome if I wasn't like presented in a certain way. If I didn't look put together that day or whatever. And so I try to be very like real authentic, I guess is the buzzword you would use, to show like this is just who I am. Like this isn't just like some marketing slogan. Like this is real. Like you're gonna see if you come into the shop, like things are not always gonna be perfect. And we'll probably look a hot mess at least 1 or 2 days a week, you know? And I think it's just like that's real and that's like who I am. And so I think in the beginning more so, like there were some times where I was like, man, I really need to like do X, Y, and Z now that I have this business. But um I just it's hard to keep up with the Joneses in the sense of like don't try to be someone that you're not and really try to like just own who you are. And so I think that's been a lot of Presley Paige is like growing up this past 2 years of saying like I really just have to turn on my blinders and forget about what other people are doing and just focus on like who we are and what we're trying to build because we're not trying to build the next like high fast fashion brand or kind of apparel boutique. Like that's not, and we're not about like the full glam look. Like that's just not who we are. And we're very much a place of anybody can shop here, come on in, don't feel like you need to look or look a certain way, have a certain dollar in your bank account. Like we're going to treat everybody the same that walks through these stores and help them. And that could mean you only have $20 to spend, or it could mean you have $2,000 to spend on like your celebration. Like we want to help you create the best thing that you want to, whether that's a gift or a party for your friend. We want to help you. And I think that that's what's been so exciting of like meeting our customers and like really like connecting with them. It's that we have such diversity of like who our customers are right now. Hopefully, it will continue to grow and change.
Yes, I think you do such a good job of towing the line of like, maybe you said at the start of your story, seeking inspiration from social media and what's happening in the world, and still doing that because it's important to have a pulse on what's happening. But it's also like knowing when you have to have the blinders sort of mindset of like, regardless of what's happening around me, like this is what I need to do for my business in this moment, and maintaining that authenticity, to yourself and to your customers. I think that's not an easy thing to balance, but really great when it's done so masterfully. I also wanted to talk about, how your brand, I think it's so great how it evokes your values and where you come from and what you believe to be true and how to treat people, equally and well and celebrate each person. But it's also not your name. And I think it's, like I studied marketing branding. I think it's so interesting and so exciting. And so it leaves, in my perception, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I think it leaves room for like you and the brand to grow on your connected paths, but also like, as Presley Paige becomes Presley Paige and like you continue to be and evolve as Maggie, like it's very special how they are together but separate.
Yeah, I don't think it was super intentional in the beginning. Well, and I guess yeah, it was never really intentional. I'm a super introvert though, and so I think that's something that people don't really know from Instagram. I'm so introverted. I'm like really good one-on-one, but I'm not really good in like a group of people. And so as the brand has kind of grown, really the past, I think it's been like the past like 2 months, I've really started to have people like be like, "Oh, you're that girl from Presley Page." I'm like, like yes. But it's like this whole new thing for me. And I think you're right. Like I'm trying to figure out like who I am as an entrepreneur because this is a new phase of life for me, going from like employee to entrepreneur. And while Presley Page started a year ago, over a year ago, I didn't leave my corporate job until January of this, like the end of January, really February of 2021. And so I'm still trying to figure out like who I want to be, and like how I want to show up on social media outside of Presley Page, in the world, and I don't know yet. I don't know the answer to that, but I think that's, as Presley Page continues to grow and scale and we're working on like collaborations and different things, not having it like so strongly attached to like my name has been great. But I will say there is a lot of overlap at this point. So we'll just have to figure out as we move forward. Don't know the answers yet.
Yes, and that's like all we're not supposed to. So that's awesome that you just,
Yeah.
figuring it out as we go, but also you bring so many cool learnings into it, and everything lines up really nicely. So I just checked this morning and you're at like over 18,000 followers, which is just phenomenal and
Yeah.
exciting. Especially with the time that had to be, offline because of the pandemic. I want to talk a little bit about, you have these really special events with Presley Page. And I remember, was it a couple of weeks or even months ago now, like the penthouse opening? Maybe you could speak to that and how you end up connecting with people, even if it's like word of mouth, online. I don't know.
Yeah. So pretty much I always tell the people around me, like, if anybody else is doing it, I don't want to do it. Like, I just want to do something that people won't even think I'm gonna do all the time.
Yes.
And that's very hard as like I'm learning, like you can only do that so many times in the world. So the penthouse sale, so that was the first time we had done that. And essentially it was our warehouse sale, but I wanted to name it something fun. We're clearly like attached to anything with a P because of the double P's in the name. So we leased a warehouse in May, I think is when we moved into this April, May-ish of this year. And we just have a ton of inventory, like every business that's growing. You're constantly trying to figure out like what's working and what's not working. And so, in making room for the new products that's coming in for holiday season, so I was like, we should do a sale, but like, how do we take a sale and make it really fun? And so that's how we came up with the theme of like party in the penthouse. And the penthouse is the nickname for our warehouse. And um, that really started because for a short time in January, um, I was having like there's a guest room in my house, and I had ripped the floors out of it, and so it was like it's upstairs, but it has no floor. Like it just has the same floor, and like we had like our photo. That's where we were shooting a lot of content, and because we couldn't we didn't have space in the store, and so we started shooting content at my house essentially. Is what this all stems, and so we were like joking like Presley Paige penthouse is like what we were calling this room in my house with no floor. And people were always like, "Can we come to the penthouse?" And it was just a joke. Like it was so funny because I'm like, literally, this is nothing. Like this is a small room in my house upstairs with no floor. So when we leased that space, we just like joked and carried on the name. So that was our first time to do that. It was that was July 9th. So up until that point, that was our biggest day, highest number of transactions and highest number of sales. And then for this past weekend, we wanted to partner and do a lot for the Greek students that were coming back. So we titled that one Greek Market. So we essentially took our whole parking lot and worked with other vendors that brought in Greek merchandise and apparel. So that was that one, but that was more of a collaboration. And then our biggest one that we've ever had, and we're bringing back for year 2, is Presley Paige Pinkmas. Yeah. And that is like the highlight of my life. No, I'm just kidding. It's so exciting. But Presley Paige Pinkmas is our holiday collection debut. It's the first weekend in November. And last year, we did everything and planned for it in less than 2 months. And so this year, gosh, we've been planning for it since last year. So we're really excited about it. And that's just something I don't know, from a marketing perspective, I just wanted people to be excited about our unique product offerings and what we were doing, and being able to we had pink Christmas trees last year. We had a huge pink garland outside of the shop. So we'll have a lot of the similar things from last year, and then a ton of new, just because we've grown so much. And it's just a whole vibe. I don't know. I'm trying to think if we've done it. And we did for our birthday, we did 365 days of Presley Paige. So just trying to instead of saying 1 year, first birthday, just try to make it a little bit more fun.
Yes.
So yeah, I don't really know we have a specific like agenda for our events, but we're always trying to do something that's a little over the top. Maybe doesn't make all the sense on the balance sheet, but helps like get people to see like who we are and like what our like brand ethos are. So
Yes, I think it brings full circle. You know, you said you need to fulfill the promises you make to people, and your brand is making every day a party. And these events make every day a party. It gives me on a random, it's like Saturday that I have nothing going on, like a destination and something on my calendar and
yeah,
to look forward to. And so I think that that adds its own value to the community, especially coming out of a year of a lot of nothing going on.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I know like pre-pandemic times, I had a lot of party ideas in mind and like wanted to do. And I was hoping that we would be in a great place this summer and fall, but with the Delta variant, we're going to still kind of back off. But we're really excited, once, you know, we do get to a better place in our country with COVID, that we can do more in-person events and things with people because there's so many fun things to celebrate. And um like the great thing is like there's nothing stopping you from having a not average Saturday. It's just like you have to put a little effort into it. So we're
Yes.
super excited about that.
I love that state of mind. And so it's a beautiful experience when you go to Presley Page in person, but the website's also lovely and really easy to use. And I'm wondering, are most of your, I mean, probably maybe most of your clients are in Arkansas, but are you seeing clients from like other places that surprise you or
Yeah.
different like?
Um, so our storefront is like what grows the most. Like our storefront does really well. Most of our customers do come in store to purchase from us, but our online sales are growing. And that's really was a goal for 2020, just has kind of gotten put on the back burner. But as we kind of look forward, I think you can expect to see a lot more from Presley Page in the digital space, especially online. And we have shipped to, I think, every state at this point. There might be like one that we're missing. I'd have to check. But we have shipped to Egypt, Qatar. We ship a lot to Canada, Germany, Mexico. I mean, we really ship all over. Um, and I think in the beginning we were shipping a ton to New York and LA. And I don't know, it's just because like we can offer products at a lower price point than like vendor, like retailers in those markets. But um, I I don't know. I'm always shocked that anybody buys anything from us anywhere online. So I I love when anyone shops I mean, like sometimes people will shop from my hometown and they'll like order online, and when we're packing the order, I'm always like, I'm from here. Hi. Or like where I went to college in Salt Lake. I'll be like, I actually went to school here. Go Utes, like I mean, I just love it. It's so exciting. And every time we pack an order, it still feels so like brand new and like we're doing it for the first time. Just because we're not, we're growing online, but it's a little slower than in person. So
Yes, I remember it being such a sweet experience when I ordered. I got the Fayetteville t-shirt for myself and
oh, yeah,
like
yeah,
I'm like a big sister for someone. I got them the matching one in a different size and like got them a tote bag and like you and I were messaging back and forth about it. It was so pleasant and so personal. So definitely
yeah.
encourage anyone to shop in person or
Not
online.
online, not Presley Paige.
Truly. So as we're starting to wrap up, I want to make sure that I ask, why do creativity and entrepreneurship matter? What keeps inspiring and motivating you to do the thing every day?
Yeah. So from an entrepreneurship perspective, I think that it matters because the world really like runs on entrepreneurs. And I think that like it's easy to feel like you're in a rut or that nothing you're doing is going to make a difference. But so much of it, like, it's not through like, it's not when you're just starting, but as you continue to like grow and connect with other people. I think entrepreneurship is such a great mechanism. Like being an entrepreneur inspires other people to show them that they can do it. So um, I think it matters because that's how we're going to move forward and new ideas come about. Not everything comes from corporate America or these big like conglomerates. It's the small entrepreneurs that really like make up our country and um, make part of like being in a community so great is meeting these other entrepreneurs, small business owners, startups. I think it matters because the entrepreneurs are what are going to bring new ideas and change, into the world. And I love meeting, especially with like teenagers. We had, I guess, preteens a few weeks ago. They were doing like a lemonade stand, and they were donating a little bit of their proceeds to, like the children at their school who couldn't afford lunches and things. So, or I don't know the details. I guess I shouldn't say that. They were donating some of their proceeds to other children, though. And so I think, especially as I'm looking to like the next couple generations younger than me, of like having such a mission driven focus. I think that really started with the millennials, with like Tom's and other, similar brands, and really thinking through like as we lean to this next generation of entrepreneurs, how they are going to be able to show like mission values and how to give back in a whole nother way with a totally new perspective is really exciting to me. So very big fan of young entrepreneurs. And then I think creativity matters because without creativity, the world is just a little bit more dull. And I think like taking your creative ideas and throwing them out into the world inspires other people and um, makes the world a happier place. And I think for me, I always would tell people like, I'm not creative. I'm not creative. And then as I got older, I really realized like I'm creative, but I'm not artistic. And so I need the artistic person as my like sidekick to help me. And so that was more like learning my strengths and weaknesses. But I think creativity, it is such a great tool of inspiration. And people that are creative have so many doors opened up, can have so many doors opened up for them when they take action. So I think the combination of being a creative entrepreneur, um, you're have the sky as the limit for you, and being able to really like capitalize on opportunities available and like execute it. Because an idea is just an idea until you actually do something with it. So I think that that's the entrepreneurship part. It's like you can be creative all day, but like do something with it and move forward and put it out into the world and see what happens.
Yes. Is there, so for that creative person who wants to take the step to be an entrepreneur, to create a brand, is there a specific piece of wisdom or a lesson you've learned along the way that you would like to share with them?
Oh man, I would just say be resilient. It's going to be really, really hard, and there's going to be so many days that you want to give up. But what separates you from other people is like that you get up again. And I think about this past 2 years of business and like dealing with my full-time job and like growing Presley Paige. There were so many days then and so many days now that I just don't think I can do it. But then I get back up and I try again. So I think being resilient in anything that you're doing makes a difference. So it's like when you're faced with those hard times, or when someone's copying you, or when you don't feel like you have any good ideas, it's like just show up again and try again and keep trying until it works. And not everything we do works, even though like Instagram might make it seem like it does sometimes. But that's not the reality of what's happening on the back end. And I think be resilient. Don't compare yourself to other people. I think that's been really hard for me too, and something that I'm constantly trying to overcome is like comparison and copycats. Like whenever someone copies you, just know that they're always going to be behind you. And that's what I tell my team sometimes. Like when they see something that somebody else is doing right after we did, or a week or two later, I'm like, it doesn't matter because we're always going to be like 4 steps ahead. So just like keeping that perspective of your blinders, push forward, doesn't matter what's going on around you, just keep on trying. and eventually, hopefully, it'll work. If not, you're going to move on, as an entrepreneur, you're going to move on to something else. So you're going to find something else that works for you.
Yes. And I think that that resilience has so many secondary or like complementary gains. To me, it's like it comes forth to the consumer as like dependability. I think we're in such a fast world where something's there one day and not the next day. And you're like, well, then now where am I going for my birthday card or my thing? And like the fact that you keep showing up is like, okay, I love this brand. I trust this brand. I know they're going to be there for me. So I don't mind, investing in them as well. And I think that that's something that
For sure.
really is some consistency in this really tumultuous time.
Yeah, I mean, from like, if there's anybody that is listening that wants to open a business, this is like the best piece of advice I can give is like when you're opening, like set your hours and stick to your hours. And that was something like I mentor somebody else that opened a business around the same time as me. But we're just two different like experience, so we're different places. But I always tell her, I'm like, don't say that you're open 10 to 5 and not be there 10 to 5. Like, if you're going to be open 10 to 5, you're going to be there 10 to 5. Doesn't matter if it's a slow day and you have no customers, like, you have to be there because it's like those small things are what teach your customer that they can rely on you.
So true. It means so much in personal relationships, in business relationships, and just in showing up as a human and a good human to your fellow people. So finally, Maggie, what do you want people to leave knowing about you and your work? And what are you really looking forward to right now?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So
Like throw it all in.
that's like 6 questions in one. Okay. So I'm really looking forward to, oh my gosh, when sleeping this weekend. I really am excited to take a nap and sleep for several hours. But in reality, I'm really excited for our holiday collection that launches the first week in November. We launch Halloween next week. So I think those are the most exciting things happening in the Presley Paige world right now that I'm super excited about. And excited for the weather to change here in Northwest Arkansas. Fall in Northwest Arkansas is the most beautiful time of year. If I was going to leave one thing with people, I would say that I want them to know, like, that nothing is ever as perfect as it seems on the internet, and as beautiful and as curated as what we, are showing online, like, that's intentional. And so and like, somebody gave me this advice years ago and I think about it literally once a week. Like, don't try to be the brand that you want to be. Like, or, sorry, don't try to like don't play up here. Like, you're not going to be Maybelline if you're in makeup, right? Like, you're not going to be Maybelline like straight out of the gate. Like, you don't have a fancy camera, you don't have a staff of 500, you're whatever, like, to build your marketing strategy. Like, so don't try to be Maybelline. Like, that can be aspirational for you, but like, you don't need to be there to start, I guess is the best way to say that. And so even for us, like, just start where you are and start with what you have. Like, every single photo that we have on our Instagram, for example, like, all of those are shot with an iPhone. Like, there's nothing like overly professional about any of it. And so if you're looking to start a new entrepreneurial journey, like, don't worry about like starting with all these things. Just start with what you have and let it go from there. And enjoy the journey. Like, the journey and the hard parts and the sad days are like all part of that experience. So like, soak it in, be a good neighbor to the people around you and to your community, and like, love on your community and give back to them, because if you don't show up for your community, then they're not going to show up for you in return. So I think so much of it is like, be a good person, enjoy the journey, don't compare yourself, and just start somewhere and see what happens.
I love all of that. I think it speaks so much to who you are and all the value you bring to this community. I'm so happy to be living here at this moment where Presley Paige is a thing, and I can't wait to visit for the Halloween stuff for the holiday stuff, for all of the things. It has been such a joy to start the day this way. Maggie, I have like pink energy like flowing through my veins, ready to celebrate everything that comes forward today. And I'm also gonna, I feel like on Instagram, you've made me convinced that I need to get my water at McDonald's, I think. Is that?
Oh my gosh. I'm a big fan of McDonald's water. They have the best water in town. It's 15 cents with tax. That's like all included. Or is it, no, it's 11 cents. Sorry. But you can get two for 22 cents. And it's just a steal of a deal. I literally will go there after we hang up this call. And we really are like feeling, I don't do the food at McDonald's all the time, but I do love it. But you can literally get a sausage biscuit and a water for under $2. I mean, that's a steal of a deal.
A steal and a deal. And there's something like therapeutic about going through a drive-through. I don't know why. It just really makes me feel like I'm home in the suburbs when I was growing up. So maybe I'll catch you in the drive-through for that big water. It sounds amazing on this like
McDonald's water is the best. You heard it here first.
all the wisdom. Thank you so much, Maggie. This has been such a pleasure.
Yeah.